Good afternoon, guys. It's Working, bringing you a very quick update on Bitcoin. Hope you guys are having a wonderful afternoon. We're looking at Bitcoin to the U.S. dollar. This is the 1 week chart on Bitstamp. I thought I'd start off, guys, with a bigger picture here, so you can kind of see where we're finding support. Clearly, Bitcoin has been bouncing off the bottom of this zone here, around 3,600, for about well, this is the third week now. And we can see this is where it again is. It's currently at about 3,800. It's been bouncing all the way down to about 3,600 in the prior week here, guys. Just kind of creating structure right on top of this zone here. And this zone really is the last stand. I do believe if this zone ends up breaking down, we're going to very quickly come down to that $3,000 level that we've been warning about for quite some time. Now, if we zoom out here to the monthly chart, it looks a lot more bearish. In other words, I told you guys on my last few updates that this November candle was key. I said if November candle closed below this prior order block here, which it did, that very likely we were coming much lower. We did close below. We came back up. We got confirmation. Bitcoin tried to break back into this zone at about 4,300. It was unable to, got rejected, and it's kind of ping-pong balling now in between that $4,000 zone and that $3,600 zone, guys. And again, this is on the monthly chart. This is a very, very bearish indication. We're not having really any volume. If we come over here and we look at volume, let me refresh it so we get the most current information here. Yeah, we're sitting at about 5.1 billion for the day. That's extremely low. Excuse me, and has been a tick down versus what we were seeing. Remember, we were seeing volume up at that $7 billion, a little over 7 even at times, and it's been slowly trickling down over the last few days, really over the last week or so, really a few days. So that is not a good sign, guys. It doesn't mean that we can't turn around, doesn't mean we might not get a very big wick here and then a strong reversal. That is possible, but this is, again, strengthening the case that Bitcoin is looking more likely that it may come down and test that $3,000 level. Now, again, not saying it's going to for sure, but right now things are looking a little more bearish. If we come over here and we look at our moving averages, this is on the daily chart, we can see that price has been since November the, let's see, when was the last time it was above there? Yeah, since November the 9th. So a very long time, guys. It's been unable to really decisively break. I take that back. I stand corrected. I was going to say it's unable to decisively break above that 8-day EMA. It did one day. Again, by decisively, it means that we have a candle opening and closing above that 8-day EMA. We did one time on the 29th of November, and of course, it immediately broke right back down. We've had little breaks above, but nothing decisive since the 29th of November, and that was really the only time we had that break above since November the 9th. So again, guys, very, very bearish indication that we can't even get above that 8-day EMA, guys, and we're just kind of hovering right below there as we speak. Again, doesn't mean things can't turn around. It just means as of right now, the bears are really in full control. And you'll know that we have a little bit of life coming back when we can at least get a decisive break above this 8-day EMA. If we can get a daily candle both opening and closing above this 8-day EMA, not this. We had kind of a spinning top right here. I'd like to see a bullish engulfing candle, penetrating up above something, something like this, with then follow through on the next day. That's really what we need to see to have any kind of a sign of a major reversal. Let's zoom in here to the 4-hour chart and look at longs versus shorts. Now, this is the only thing that I think is preventing Bitcoin from heading down to that $3,000 level, and that is that shorts are flirting with all-time highs. We're not there yet, but if we kind of zoom out here, we can see all-time highs sitting up here. We're getting very, very close to that all-time high area on shorts, and of course, it's a zero-sum game, as I always tell you. For someone to make money, someone has to lose money. So right now, I think that market makers would really like to liquidate these short positions, but they're afraid, of course, if they drive price up, that's going to spark some kind of a bull run, and I do believe that they want price coming down to that. They want to buy at least a $3,000 Bitcoin. That's kind of what their goal is. Sorry about that, guys. Had to pause the video for about 10 minutes there. And anyway, getting back to what I was saying. Anyway, guys, for someone to make money, someone has to lose money. So yeah, as I was saying, shorts are approaching all-time highs. And when you look at the spread between longs and shorts, of course, we're looking at shorts now. We click over here, we look at longs, and we zoom in here. We can see that longs are, again, they're at about that 30% differential between longs and shorts, and somewhere between 30 to 35%. That's when you start watching for a massive short squeeze. Now, again, even if we have a massive short squeeze, guys, that does not necessarily mean that we're going to head into that bull run. We could have a massive short squeeze and have this thing turn right back around. There's no question about that. Pardon me, guys. So, just because we have a short squeeze doesn't necessarily mean there is the bottom here. So keep that in mind. If we do get a little short squeeze here in the next week or so, be very, very careful going in heavy. In other words, that's going to be, if we get that short squeeze and we don't have it confirmed by volume, and again, by volume, as I've been telling you guys for months and months and months, we're going to know the bottom is in when we start to see daily volume continuously above 10 billion on a daily basis, not just above 10 billion for 1 or 2 days, but consistently above 10 billion on a daily basis. That's when you're going to know that new money is entering this market. And of course, new money is exactly what we have to send this thing on the bull run that we're all waiting for. So until that does happen, guys, any kind of an uptick is going to be short-lived. And now again, it doesn't mean if we do get an uptick here, it doesn't mean that can't spark a bull run. That's very possible. I'm just saying watch the overall volume if and when we do get that uptick, because until it is continuously above that 10 billion, it'd be very, very skeptical of any kind of a major rise. Okay, coming back here, zooming in here on the 4-hour chart, that was kind of our big picture. Looking at the smaller picture here, what are we looking at? Well, we can see that Bitcoin is still operating within a larger wedge. Now, last time we spoke, guys, I discussed this little pattern that was right in here that we had just broken out of. Price had just broken down here, and we found support right on top of this 3,800 support area here. What was resistance here in the past started acting as support as it should and as it still is doing. So it broke down out of this, and of course, what do we have now? If we look at the larger picture, kind of zoom back out, and you can especially see it here on the daily chart, we can see that this entire structure here is a series of lower highs and higher lows. So yes, we have created a series of lower highs, but we've also created a series of higher lows when looking at this overall structure. Okay, so what else do we have here? So of course, this tells us that anytime we get close to the apex of any kind of a wedge like that, so anytime we start approaching this area right here, we're starting to look for a major move. And at all things being equal as of right now, it does look like this would very likely end up breaking down. I say that because we have very low volume. I say that because I just pointed out the bearish nature of the monthly chart, the fact that we can't get above that 8-day. All of this suggests that price may break down. Doesn't mean that it's going to, it just means probability right now is in favor of price breaking down. That being said, if it does break up, guys, what are we going to be watching? If price does break up, we're going to be very, very careful of a possible bull trap of market makers trying to liquidate those shorts and then bring the price right back around. So where would that end up happening? Two areas I'd keep an eye on. This area here between about 43.15 and 4400 would be a very ripe area for a reversal. A lot of resistance here. This is a very strong supply zone. In other words, there's a lot of sell orders that are sitting up in this zone here. Up above that, what are we going to be watching? This 45.60. This is another very strong resistance area. And the last thing that we would need to clear before I would be getting a little more excited and think this thing may have legs is this zone right up here, the top of this order block right here between about 47.50, 48.30, somewhere in this zone here. But really, I do believe, guys, we're going to be watching more than likely these two zones here for a possible reversal to the downside. If price does end up breaking down, guys, of course, we're going to be watching the bottom of this zone, this 3,600, and these prior lows here. If we take out these prior lows, if this low gets taken out, guys, the only other support that we have, let me get rid of that so you guys can see a little better. The only other support that we have is this 3,400 to 3,200. If we look back in time all the way here, we can see there was a little bit of support back in here. This is back in September, October of last year. So this would be a little bit of support possibly coming into this area between 34, 30, and 32.50. But I think very likely that's going to be a very weak support. And unless price comes down and we get a strong reversal right there, I think very likely we're going to come down to that $3,000 Bitcoin that everyone has been wondering if it's going to get down to that area. I think that we should know in the next 3 to 4 days which direction this thing is going. We should get a major move in the next 3 to 4 days, in my opinion. And of course, all eyes are going to be on watching and waiting to see which direction that goes. As far as shorts are concerned, I think a lot of the, if market makers are going to drive price up, I do think a lot of the stop losses on shorts are sitting either right up here or right here. So in other words, at about 4,800 or somewhere about 44.50, somewhere thereabouts, guys. So I think they'd have to bring price. If that was a stop hunt, I think they'd have to at least bring price up here to about 4,600 to really try to clear those. And that would be at a minimum. Of course, we'd have to reevaluate the short positions and see how many got taken out at that point. But very likely they'd have to bring it all the way up here to this 48.35, call it 48.50 zone to really wipe those off the board. Now, will they end up doing that? It really is going to depend on how those shorts react. So if price does break up, you're going to want to keep an eye on not just long positions, but also keep an eye on those short positions and see if they're getting liquidated. If they are getting liquidated, then of course expect price to reverse very quickly. If they're not, expect price to keep going up. Now, it's not a guarantee. It's just kind of a behind the scenes thing to look at that will give you a very good rough idea of where price is going to go. All right, looking at our, this is again on the daily chart, looking at our RSI. RSI is flirting with oversold area. It's been bouncing right on top here, one after another, we're going to be keeping an eye on this very closely if we do break back down below oversold area, guys. This whole thing is extremely bearish. This RSI obviously is extremely bearish. The fact that we came down here, got oversold all the way down to about 8, and then came back up and couldn't even really penetrate above 32 was really the highest. And we're just kind of sitting right in that borderline between borderline to becoming oversold. So this is rather bearish. This also suggests, in my opinion, that this thing is has a good chance of breaking down. Looking at that being said, zooming in here, this is on the 4-hour chart. What can we see? We can see on the 4-hour chart, guys. Excuse me, I'm wanting to drink of water real quick. All right, guys, I'm back. All right, looking at the 4-hour chart, as I was saying, guys, looking at the RSI, we can see that the RSI has found this descending resistance line that's been unable to break above. This is something I'm keeping an eye on as well, guys. We may come back and test it one more time, possible strong rejection. And we can see that looking down at the bottom of this area, we have this kind of support area right here. It's kind of ascending support as well. So we can see this is kind of getting squeezed a little bit as well. Really, the resistance line is the one that's the key that I'm going to be keeping an eye on. Of course, this support line is still relevant, that being said. So we're going to be watching to see which direction price breaks above this support or this resistance line here, and I think that'll be very, very telling as far as which direction, obviously, which direction price may end up going in the as it breaks out of this zone in the long term here. If we can get above this zone here, decisive break above this zone, and we can get back above 50 on the 4-hour RSI, I think that'd be a very bullish sign. That being said, if we do break back below this zone and we drop below this 35th prior low here, sitting at about 35, somewhere thereabouts, guys, I think things can get bearish very, very quickly. Overall, this is a rather bearish looking RSI, even on the 4-hour. It's just probability is again in favor of price breaking down. That being said, as I told you before, the only thing holding price up, the amount of short positions that are stacked. And you can never count out the market makers, guys. You can never count out what they're going to do. And you know that, as I said, this is a zero-sum game. We know that they want to buy a $3,000 Bitcoin, but they also want to make money, and they could very easily run a short squeeze here very, very soon, and just try to liquidate all those short positions. So this, you really want to keep an eye on this. And as far as entering into a position one direction or another, guys, I would just sit on the sidelines. Unless you're a day trader, if you're a day trader, just trade the volatility clearly. And if you're a day trader, you're going to be looking for quick swing trades. You've been probably trading the support and resistance the entire time. You're probably looking for an entry somewhere around 3,600, expecting a nice bounce with a very tight stop loss here. You're looking for a short somewhere around 43.50, somewhere at the top of this zone here. You look at a short somewhere in that area. Day traders, I'm not really talking to you. I'm coming more to you, talking more to the investors here that are not so much day traders, that are looking for just a good overall entry point. For those people, I would say you've probably dollar cost averaged in a little bit on the way down here. I do not think that this is in my opinion, I would just hold on to what you've dollar cost averaged in. I would try, hopefully you still have, if you've been listening to me, you do still have a lot of fiat that's on the side waiting for the possibility of lower prices. And where I would start to deploy your fiat much heavier is if price does end up breaking down. I would be looking for maybe a little bit of a small position in here between 34 and 32.50, but I'd be going in a little more heavy at this $3,000 level. Now, would I deploy all my fiat at 3,000? Absolutely not. I've told you guys a million times that we may be coming down as low as 1,100, 1,200. That's a real possibility, guys, and I want you to make sure that you do keep that in mind. For those of you that may have missed my past videos on that, I've showed you guys here quite a few times. But coming back here to the monthly chart, guys, we can see that $1,100, $1,200 zone. If we look back here, we can see that this was a very relevant resistance back in 2013, the end of 2013. Of course, fast forward a few years later, price came back down, came back up, found another very relevant resistance area here, created a lot of structure for about 4 months, and then it just took off. So this zone between 11 and 1,200 is a very, very relevant zone, and I would call this, in my opinion, this is where an absolute bottom would be. This is where I would not expect this to break. This is where I would go. I always tell you guys to make sure you have fiat on the side available so you can take care of the lower prices. This is the lowest area that I would be looking to deploy my fiat. This is where I would go in very, very heavy. This is where I would not be worrying about it coming lower. Doesn't mean it can't. Certainly doesn't mean it can't. But in my opinion, this would be an absolute bottom. This would be an area that I would be very, very comfortable going in heavy if we ever got down into that zone. Not saying it's ever going to happen, guys. Just saying that this is something that you want to watch. In fact, this is, as I told you in the past, this is not a probability. This is just a possibility. I think much more likely we're going to find bottoms somewhere between 3,000 and 2,500, closer to that $3,000 range, in my opinion. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap things there, guys. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, please let me know in the comment section below. As always, would appreciate an upvote if you have enjoyed this content. Until next time, guys, please trade safe. Take care of yourselves. This is Working, signing out.